Welcome. In this explainer, we're going to break down the first two core pillars of the IFRS S1 standard. We'll be focusing specifically on what it all means for you if you're an SME preparer. Okay, so here's our game plan. We'll start by quickly defining IFRS S1. Then we'll look at its overall structure. After that, we're doing a deep dive into those first two pillars, governance and risk management. And we'll wrap it all up with a practical example and some key takeaways you can act on. First things first, let's just make sure we're all on the same page. What exactly is IFRS S1? Well, it sets a brand new global baseline for how companies report on sustainability. So, the crucial point here is that this standard is all about providing decision-useful information. It's designed to give investors, lenders, and other creditors a really clear view of how sustainability factors could actually impact your company's value, so they can make smart decisions about where they put their money. So let's see how this all fits together. IFRS S1 is built on four core pillars, and these pillars provide the complete architecture for your disclosures. Now, if the structure looks familiar, that's because it's borrowed from the widely accepted TCFD framework. That's the Task Force on Climate-Related Financial Disclosures, which is great because it provides a familiar starting point for a lot of companies. So here they are, the four pillars, straight from paragraph 25 of the standard. For today, we're really going to focus on those foundational first and third pillars, governance and risk management. These are absolutely essential because they establish the who and the how of your entire sustainability oversight process. All right, time for our first deep dive, governance. This is all about getting super clear on who does what. It requires a really clean separation of duties between strategic oversight and, the day-to-day operational stuff. It's all about accountability. Now, what's so interesting here is this really clear distinction. The board is in charge of strategy, and, this is critical, it has to determine and disclose how it makes sure it has the right skills for the job. This is not just a box-ticking exercise. For an SME, this means you have to ask questions like, hey, does our board have someone with supply chain expertise to actually oversee our new sustainable sourcing strategy? That's the level of detail we're talking about. Meanwhile, management is on the ground making sure the day-to-day controls are actually integrated into the business. And I think this analogy just illustrates the dynamic perfectly. The board sets the destination. They chart the course based on all those sustainability risks and opportunities. But it's management that provides the raw operational power to get the ship there, day in and day out. Okay, moving on to the second pillar for today, risk management. And I really want you to pay close attention here, because IFRS S1 introduces a pretty significant evolution beyond some of the older frameworks. Honestly, this is a real game changer. You see, the standard's objective is totally explicit. It is not just about managing the downside, right? Not just the potential negative impacts. It's equally about creating formal processes to identify and manage the upside, the potential for some genuine value creation. This is the one point every SME preparer has to grasp. IFRS S1 formally brings the hunt for sustainability-related opportunities into your risk management disclosures. You actually have to explain the how you find them, how you evaluate them, and how you act on them, and you have to do it with the same rigor you apply to risks. Okay, so that's the theory. Let's make this a bit more tangible with a quick example of how a real SME might actually apply these principles. So first, the opportunity gets identified, tapping into a new and, let's face it, a growing customer segment that really cares about sustainable practices. This could be a whole new revenue stream, or maybe just a way to build some serious brand loyalty. Next, management develops a process, just like the risk management pillar requires. They're not just crossing their fingers and hoping it works, they are actively tracking the data. This means they're integrating new metrics, like the sales lift from that sustainable packaging, right into their existing quarterly business reviews. They're managing it just like any other business initiative. And finally, the board provides that high-level oversight, fulfilling its governance role. It's reviewing the performance of this whole initiative and constantly asking, do we have the right skills at the board level to guide the strategy? So, for example, they'd be assessing if they have enough marketing and consumer behavior expertise on the board to really challenge management's assumptions and truly guide this eco-conscious growth opportunity. So, what should you take away from all this? Let's quickly summarize the core actions for you as a preparer. Right, these are your essential action items. Clearly define those governance roles. Document your processes for both risks and opportunities, and integrate them fully. Remember that focus on board competencies and the explicit requirement to manage opportunities, those are the really big shifts here. And we'll just end with this thought. This isn't just about compliance, right? It's a strategic framework that really challenges you to see sustainability as a source of value. It's about building a more resilient and, frankly, a more forward-looking business.